Okay, hi again. So welcome back. The last thing we did was we created the homepage function and film detail function, and we created our URL patterns. And what we want to do now is create that base template. Let's talk a bit more about that. So basically what we want is we want a template so that on every single page, we're not going to individually write all the HTML, including all the styling. And to be fair, we don't have any styling right now. I haven't included anything so far. It's literally just a very basic page. If we go back again, very basic page. We want to add some style to it, but I don't want to style each page individually. Okay, so I want to create a template so that all the style happens on that template, and then the only thing I've got to worry about in each individual film page, HTML page, is just the data and how I'm going to lay that out. So at the moment, you can see here I've got document type, HTML, the head stuff, and really all I want is everything in between the body tags to be the only thing I write on these pages. So let's start in our root folder. We're going to add a new folder here. We're going to call it templates. And inside that, we're going to create a new file called base.html. And then what we'll do is, just like before, we'll create a HTML. We'll use that boilerplate HTML. And let us include some things. Well, we'll come back to the CSS framework in a second. But here then, we're going to say block content. And then what we'll do is we'll have a closing tag called end block content. So we want this page to be our base template, and we want this to not only to be written out once, and then these other pages, so the home page and the film detail page, they're going to have their own block content tags, and we are just going to pass all the data that needs to come up from those pages in between these tags. So let's save this base template. Let's go back to our home page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything from here up. And I'm going to say, hey, there's your two tags. We don't need that body tag there. And that can go back there. And we just need to say that this, so basically this is the only thing that we're going to write now. We're not going to do all the rest of it. Except we're going to do one more thing. We're going to say extends the base HTML, and that wasn't in capitals. Right. Oh, it's just one thing. So now when I try to load this up, it's not going to work because of the fact that we haven't told Django when this page is loaded up where this base HTML is, so it just won't work. So it will still try to load this homepage web page, this template, but it won't know where this base template exists, so it won't be able to work. So let's try that out. Let's go here and let's refresh our home page, and just like we said, it says here template does not exist at base.html. So let's go back to our core, and in the settings file we're going to say we've got a base directory. So our base directory is our base directory with all our directories and all our folders inside it, folders and files here. And we want it to find it in this templates file. So if we scroll down a bit where we have templates, we want to say the directory to our template is going to be base directory /templates. And I believe actually that should be in quotes. Let's try that out. So now if we go back to our home page again and refresh, it's now found it. So that's now working because we've now told it where our base templates folder is. And so we'll just do the exact same thing. So we can close that. We'll just borrow those two lines there, and we're going to stick them onto our film detail page. So we'll start from there, like that, and we'll do that. And here we'll just say end block content. Right, so we've done that. That should work. Both pages should work perfectly now. They should both extend from the base template. So if I click on that, that works perfectly fine as well. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to add some styling. To do that, let's introduce, I'm in two minds. Should I do, no, let's do Bootstrap. Okay, so this is the Bootstrap web page. What Bootstrap basically is a CSS that's already been completed and styled for us. So we don't have to sit there and write CSS. And it's just more convenient that we use this sometimes because it's kind of already done. And there are more CSS frameworks. So at the bottom of the page here, I did list a whole bunch that we can try out. So right, to put this together is actually really simple. In an actual production website, what we wouldn't do really is I wouldn't just do what I'm about to do. I would install it differently, but this is a nice, easy way just to start. So a quick start then is that we're going to include here in the head section of our page, we're going to include this first bit. Just copy that. That will go straight into the head section of our base template. There in the head section, we'll put it there. Okay, and then there was a section, I believe it should be in the body. Let's double check. Yeah, so in the body we have a script tag, and this just, if there's any sort of interactivity in terms of with JavaScript, then I think this handles that. So we'll go back to there and we'll load that there. Okay, and if I save this and reload our web page, you're going to see that immediately there's going to be some differences. It's going to look different. So the font will change. There we go. Right, so it's changed and everything is now aligned to the left. So the first thing I'm going to do, I suppose, is I'm going to go back to the base template again. And I'm going to include here, I'm going to include something called a container. So we're going to say div dot container, and then we'll put those base tags, those block tags inside it. Right, now if we check again, so let's minimize that. Now if we check again, we'll find that now everything's centered a certain amount. Okay, so that's looking, I wouldn't say great, but we're moving towards styling our page a bit more. And the great thing about this, like I said, is a lot of that CSS that we want is already there. So if we just scroll down here in the examples, I would like to utilize something like maybe a list group like that. So we have our rows in lists, or we could, rather than just have a row of films, we could have films in cards like this. So it could be in cards. Okay, so what I've done off camera is I've gone ahead and added just a few more films. So we've got 5 films in a database here. And then what I want to do is, like I mentioned, I wanted to make our website look a bit more like this. So I want some cards like this, you know, like here we've got 6 columns. I'm going to make mine slightly a bit wider. I'm going to make it 5 columns. And to do that, on Bootstrap, I've looked at some of the ideas of how to create columns using CSS. And I think this is very good. So what's really cool about this is, well, let's use this example here. Yeah, so if we look here, we've got something called row and row columns. So for example here, if we say row and row columns and we have 4 columns, it's going to render that into 4 columns. Okay. Actually, this isn't a good example because I can see that here we have 1 column that's a lot longer, a lot bigger. And so that flexes out a bit too much. And that's why what it does is, if I have more than 5 columns, so in other words, if I had more than 5 films, it would give me a maximum width of, 4 columns per, for the width of the screen. So There's another example actually. There we are. This one. This is another example where if I was to say row columns 2, then it would say it will split whatever data I've got, whatever items I've got, it's going to split it into 2 columns. And if I've got 4, then it will split me, it will have me 2 rows of 2 columns. So like I said, I want 5 columns. So let's go back to our code. And I'm looking at my function. Let's go to our home page. And I'm going to make some changes here. So I'm going to say that I want this in columns, but actually what do I want into columns? I do want a card. I want something a bit like the card on Bootstrap. So let's go back to Bootstrap again. Okay, and so actually no, let's take that code first. So what we want is we want that line of code there. Let's borrow that, and let's open this up. And what we're going to say is we want this here. So we want to have columns, and I said I wanted 5. So we want row with columns per row of 5. So we'll put this on the other side of our N4. Oops. And then here is where we want to start making the card. So let's go back to here again. And like I said, Bootstrap has a lot of built-in sort of components, and this first card for me is ideal. We'll just use that. Yeah. So what we want is we're going to want this piece of code here for our card. Let's borrow that. Let's copy. Let's go back to VS Code, and I'm just going to stick it here. Okay, and we'll just ignore this line for now. Okay, so let's comment that out. Okay, and what we're going to want is, first of all, let's import our image. So that's going to be an image. We're going to say it's going to be film dot poster, and so we want film dot poster, and we want that should be fine. I want the width of the card. I'm going to get rid of the width of the card. I don't need that because the width of the card is going to be managed by this here. This here is going to decide that the width of the screen is always going to be enough just to have 5 columns. So that will determine the width of the card, I believe. So, okay, so we're going to have our poster. So let's try that. Let's go back to here. Oh, in fact, before we move and try that out, let's have a title. Let's get rid of that, and let's put in film dot title, and let's get rid of the blurb. I don't want a blurb. In fact, let's get rid of the button as well. Let's see how that looks. So if we go back to the browser now, and we go to our web page and refresh, it's cool. Wow. All right, so cool. So now we've now got 5 columns, like we said. I'm going to make some changes to that. I can see that our cards at the moment are quite stuck together, and I can see that some of the images that are pulled from the web are different sizes to each other. So I want to make sure that they're kind of more or less the same, so that the images all sort of finish at the same length. And then what will happen is the card height will change as a result, but let's give that a go. So let's go to our card style again, actually. So we've got card, and let's add the style again, style. And we're going to say, let's give it a minimum height. So minimum height, and let's give it 500 pixels. Save it at that. But let's go to our image. Let's get rid of that. And let's add for our image that we want height for our image to be 300 pixels. And then let's have a width of our images to be 200 pixels. So now if we go back again and refresh, that does look right, but the cards are very stuck together. I don't want that. Okay, we'll work on that in a second. Let's go back to the height now. I think these heights are really big. Interesting, minimum height. Let's go back and make the minimum height 450. How does that look now? Better, that could be all right. And we're going to put some other things in as well. So I'm going to leave that at that height actually, because if we go back to here, I also want to add in the stars and then the ratings. And the ratings, we're just going to put a number in for now because of the fact that, well, let's sort out the stars first. Okay. So let's go to our stars. What I'm going to use is I'm actually going to use Bootstrap icons. Now there are loads and loads of icon packs we can use, but this is, I mean, importing these is as easy as importing our importing Bootstrap itself. So if I go to install, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I mean, this isn't the best way to install it again. We could download it and install it onto our project, but this is just nice and easy. So I'm just going to copy where it says CDN link, and we're going to put that into our base. Let's go to our base template, and underneath there's the CSS for Bootstrap. Underneath that we'll add the CSS for the Bootstrap icons. Okay, let's save that. So that now should enable us to put in icons. So at first, what we're going to say is we have above the title. We want the icons to go above the title. And I'm going to say let's do them in the size of a heading, so it's slightly bigger. And if we go back to the icons again, what I'm looking for is stars. So I want a filled in star. That's going to be an easy way to do this. Star. So right, is a filled in star. So there's a filled in star, a non-filled in star, and there's also a half star as well, which might come in useful later. So let's start with this. I think the first one is a filled in star that we want it to be yellow. So what we'll do is we'll borrow that one there. We'll borrow the filled in star, and we'll also take the non-filled in star. Star fill, and it's this easy. I'm just going to copy the code for it there, and we'll go back to our code and we'll say let's add that there. And behind it, what I want is the rating for the film. Now I'm just putting this in because this is something that we're gonna sort out right at the end. We're gonna take an average of all the people that have voted for a particular film. And then on the next line, let's add the star that's not filled in. Let's copy that and let's stick that there. And the other thing I want to do is I want to add color to these. So I want to say text. We're going to say text warning should be yellow, and this one will say text primary, which should be blue. Let's go back to our web page. Let's give that a go. That's not bad. Okay, that's not bad at all. Okay, the only issue I'm having is I believe that this star is too close and I want it to be spaced out a bit. So I'm going to add this span here. I'm going to add, where the rating is, I'm going to add that into a span tag. And then I want to give that span tag a class. Let's move that so we can see this a bit better. Class, and we'll just say that we want margin end, and let's say, for example, 2. So what this will do is this will say at the end of this 8.8, we want a margin of 2. And I think Bootstrap kind of goes up to a margin of 5, I believe, or is it? I think if I do auto, it goes 50%. Let's go back again. If we refresh, it's not bad, not bad. Actually, that's not bad. That's not bad, is it? We can keep it like that. Let's space it out a bit more. What happens if I say 5? I like that better, actually. I'm going to keep it like this. Okay, cool. In fact, maybe what I can do is maybe behind here, I should write rate. I mean, it's not in the original. It doesn't say rate here. When we click on it, a pop-up comes up, and hopefully we're going to work on that. That will be one of the last things that we do, hopefully. Right. So we've got that going. What are we missing? Okay, as we hover over our film, we're not getting the link. So let's add that. And we commented that out, didn't we? So I can literally just copy that part up to there. We'll get rid of that bit that says title. We'll put that in. And we'll close it up with an A tag. That may not look so good because it might be too small. It is too small. Okay, that's not as nice looking, is it? So what we'll do is we'll take that, and again we'll just wrap that. So let's borrow that. We'll wrap that in H5 tags. Maybe H4 is more appropriate, or H6. Ooh, not bad, not bad. I'm not sure I want it to be underlined in blue. This one kind of underlined as we flow over it. We can change that later. All right, so the point is it's functional. So if I click on Die Hard 2, it gives me some info about Die Hard 2. And obviously then we have to fix this up so it looks a little nicer. Okay, so that's not too bad. So if we were to have a 6 film, what should happen then is it should break it onto a new line. Okay, so let's test that out. I'll do that off camera. Okay, so I've done that, and I guess the next thing now is it has moved it over to a new line. And what I want to do now is I just want to have a little bit of a gap between these cards. So we need some padding between them. Let's do this. Let's create another div dot. Yeah, that should be fine. And then what we'll do is we'll put this inside it. There we go. Now I think automatically Bootstrap is going to create just a little bit of margin. Let's do a margin, not end. Let's do a margin. Let's just do a margin bottom. Yeah, so what we have is a slight gap between the films on the bottom, and it should close the gap with the films on the top. That's not too bad. Let's make it a bit wider actually. Let's do 5. Too much. Do 3. Cool. That looks all right to me. Okay, so that's not bad. Okay, so it looks to me like the homepage more or less. The design looks almost the way it should. Obviously, I want to do some other things as well. Like I want to have, for example, a dark background. But I'm going to do that later. How long is this video? This video is long enough, so I'll leave this one at that. On the next video, what we'll do is we'll do the styling for the film detail page as well. And then what we'll do is we'll add some style to the base page so that the background is going to be dark, just like in the example here. Yeah, cool. I'll see you guys in the next video.